Most kids learn words first. Donald Brashear learned punches. By 8, he was a foster child in a country that hated him. By 17, he dropped his first opponent with one straight right. The NHL didn't teach him how to fight. The NHL just paid him for what he already knew. Bedford, Indiana, January 1972. A small town in the limestone belt of Southern America, a place that has produced almost nothing the rest of the country has heard of. Donald is the youngest of 3 children born to Johnny Brashear and Nicole Gauthier, a French-Canadian woman who became pregnant by an American Air Force serviceman and ended up in a house she could not leave fast enough. The marriage broke before Donald could walk. Johnny drank. The house was not a safe place. Nicole ran back across the border into Quebec, back to the only family she had left, and she did not look back. She came back once, quietly, to collect her 2 older boys. She left Donald behind. He stayed with Johnny for 4 more years. The home was not safe. By the time he finally got out, he had already learned more about pain than most adults ever do. When Nicole was finally pressed on why she left her youngest behind, her answer was straightforward. Her new partner did not want a mixed-race child in the house. Donald's paternal grandmother is the one who eventually got him out. She sent him to Canada around the age of 5. He landed in Loretteville, Quebec, in his mother's new home with a stepfather named Gerard Roy, who had no warmth to offer him. Decades later, a reporter tracked Roy down and asked about his time as Donald's stepfather. Roy did not deny how he had treated the boy. Nicole gave up. She told social services he had what she called mental problems and that he refused to accept her as his mother. 2 foster homes took him in. 2 foster homes sent him back. The reason given was that he was a little too much to handle. At 8, a 3rd family in Val-Bel-Air finally kept him. They gave him siblings. They gave him hockey skates. He had never been on ice before in his life. Money was tight. Donald sold bakery bread door to door. He sold garbage bags. He delivered papers. Every dollar he scraped together went toward gear and league fees, because hockey was the first thing in his short life that gave him back what he put in. His half-brother had a 10-speed bike. Donald did not. So when his brother rode somewhere, Donald ran beside him. He was already, as a young boy, in the kind of shape adult athletes spend careers chasing. But the rink was not a refuge from the rest of his life. It was a continuation of it. Other kids in rural Quebec had never seen a black child before. They told him so. They followed him home. He learned very young that a fight at school did not require a reason. It required a target. Hockey was the one room where his anger had a use. Everywhere else, it was just a problem. He was 17 years old the first time he dropped his gloves on the ice. Junior hockey, Quebec. He looked at the player across from him, set his feet, and threw one straight right hand. The other player went down. Donald skated to the box with his head up. The QMJHL learned his name in a single shift. He stayed in junior for 3 seasons. Longueuil, then Verdun. He was not a polished player. His skating was rough. His puck handling was basic. Coaches saw a 6'2" left winger who could put a man on the ice with one punch and could not yet decide whether that was an asset or a liability. The 1992 NHL draft came and went. 264 names were called over 11 rounds. Donald Brashear was not one of them. Not a single team wanted him. The Montreal Canadiens signed him as a free agent in July of that year. They were not bringing him in for the NHL roster. They needed a heavyweight for their farm team in Fredericton, New Brunswick, someone who could keep their prospects safe in the AHL. He took the contract without flinching. It was the only one he was offered. What happened next, nobody had projected. In his second AHL season, 1993-94, Donald Brashear scored 38 goals. He put up 66 points in 62 games. He led the team in penalty minutes with 250. The combination did not exist in pro hockey. A man this dangerous was not supposed to also be a top-line scorer. Montreal called him up. His NHL debut came on November 15, 1993, against the Ottawa Senators. He picked up an assist. 2 days later, against Edmonton, he scored his first NHL goal. Then, the role started to close around him. The Canadiens hired Mario Tremblay as head coach. Tremblay looked at Brashear and saw one job: fight. Skate 4 shifts, fight again. Sit. Brashear pushed back. He told the coaching staff he could play hockey. He had the AHL numbers to prove it. Tremblay was not interested. The argument boiled over at a team practice on November 9, 1996. Voices were raised. Lines were crossed. 4 days later, Montreal traded him to the Vancouver Canucks for a defenseman named Jason Cullimore. The message was clear. The role he had been arguing against was the only role anyone in the NHL was going to give him. Vancouver was not about to negotiate. The 1997-98 season is the year Donald Brashear stopped being a hockey player with fists and became something the league had never quite seen before. 372 penalty minutes. He led the entire NHL. He set a Vancouver Canucks franchise record that still stands. He scored 18 points along the way, which sounds like a footnote until you remember he was doing it while fighting more than anyone else in professional hockey. The numbers are the small story. The big story was a name on his fight card. Bob Probert was, at that point, the closest thing the sport had to a god of the genre. Detroit's heavyweight, the standard every other enforcer was measured against. When the two of them met, the script was supposed to be simple. Probert wins. He always wins. Brashear beat him twice the following season by clear decision. The hockey world processed the result in real time and recalibrated. Ty Domi was next. Brashear got the better of him repeatedly. He went toe-to-toe with Georges Laraque, the biggest enforcer in the league, more than once. The grapevine moved fast. Over time, opponents started turning him down. The challenge would come, the gloves would loosen, and the other guy would skate away. The Hockey News would later capture this exactly. They named him Enforcer of the Decade in their January 2010 issue. They noted that he probably would have been in even more fights, except hardly anyone was willing to start one with him. What separated him was the preparation. Most NHL fighters threw haymakers. Brashear had trained with actual boxers. He understood footwork on skates, which almost nobody else in the role did. He used a left jab to find his distance. He landed right crosses and uppercuts with the kind of leverage you build in a gym, not a locker room. He was naturally left-handed and had taught himself to fight equally well with either hand. And then there was the chin. Probert hit him clean. Domi hit him clean. He shook them off and came back with combinations. Inside this same window came a brief, strange invitation. Team USA called him for the 1997 World Championship. He was eligible because of his Indiana birth certificate. He went. He scored 2 goals and put up 5 points in 8 games for the Americans. He came home from Finland thinking the trip might rewrite his job description. He had told a reporter he was surprised by the call. He had also told them plainly that he had always wanted to be the kind of player who hits, body checks, and scores. Not the kind who only fights. Nothing changed. The NHL had decided what he was for. World tournaments did not factor in. And so the question that had been building since Bedford, since Val Belair, since every foster home that sent him back, what happens when the only thing protecting you is also the thing destroying you, was now sitting in the middle of his career with nowhere to go. February 21st, 2000, Vancouver. The Canucks were hosting the Boston Bruins. In the first period, Brashear and Marty McSorley dropped the gloves. Brashear handled him quickly and efficiently. On his way to the penalty box, he taunted the Bruins bench. Later, he collided with Boston goaltender Byron Dafoe, who left the ice on a stretcher. McSorley spent the rest of the game asking for a rematch. Brashear refused. 4.6 seconds left in regulation. McSorley skated up behind Brashear from the blind side. He swung his stick two-handed into the right side of Brashear's head, striking him in the temple. The helmet flew off on impact. Brashear collapsed backward. His skull hit the ice. He had a seizure on the ice. The diagnosis was a grade 3 concussion. McSorley was charged in a Canadian criminal court, found guilty of assault with a weapon, and given a conditional discharge. The NHL suspended him for a full year. It was the longest suspension ever handed down for an on-ice act of violence at the time. McSorley never played in the NHL again. Brashear missed 20 games. The man who had spent his entire life seeing the next punch coming had been hit from behind, exactly the way his father had taught him the world worked. On December 17, 2001, the Canucks traded him to Philadelphia. The Flyers gave him something Vancouver and Montreal never had, a coaching staff that wanted him to play, not just fight. In 2001-02, he set a career high with 32 points. The following season, he won the Pelle Lindbergh Memorial Trophy as the most improved Flyer. On March 5, 2004, he was on the ice for the most penalized game in NHL history against the Ottawa Senators. 419 penalty minutes were handed out that night. Brashear was in the middle of it. On July 14, 2006, Washington signed him to a one-year, $1 million contract. The reason was specific. The Capitals had a 21-year-old named Alex Ovechkin who was about to become the face of the league, and they wanted someone who would make opposing defensemen think twice before taking a run at him. Brashear did the job. The Capitals extended him twice through 3 full seasons in Washington. On November 12, 2009, with the Rangers, he played his 1,000th NHL game against the Atlanta Thrashers, the first black player born in the United States to reach that number. The broadcast mentioned it. His NHL career ended the following year at 38. No farewell tour, no tribute night. He had earned roughly $17 million across 16 NHL seasons. By 2018, none of it was left. His real estate company, Brash Properties 87, filed for bankruptcy that November. Court records showed close to $200,000 in unpaid mortgages. He was drinking. The Athletic's Dan Robson later detailed his decline. Beers from a near-empty fridge, substances hidden in his jeans, walls that felt like they were closing in. Former teammates, including Simone Gagne, stepped in to try to save him. June 5th, 2019, Quebec City. Police were at the front door of his apartment, called there over a broken window. Brashear was inside at the kitchen table. He had been laying out lines. When he heard the knock, he stuffed the last bag in his pocket and bolted out the patio door. Officers were waiting on the other side. He was 47 years old. The man who used to make NHL All-Stars skate the other way was now in cuffs over a broken window and a few grams. The charges? Mischief and possession of narcotics. Months later, a customer at a Tim Hortons drive-thru in Quebec City took a photograph. Donald Brashear was working the window. The franchise belonged to Pierre Sevigny, his old Montreal Canadiens teammates. A national news cycle treated the photo as a punchline. Sevigny did not. He told a reporter for Radio Canada why he had hired him. Something had to be done to change his routine, and perhaps to allow him to socialize with other people. That photo was a man choosing to live. He does not speak to his mother. He does not speak to his stepfather. A half-brother is the only blood he keeps. He says the distance is what saved him. 227 fights bought him a career. None of them bought him the thing he actually wanted, which was someone in the stands who showed up because they loved him. What do you think the NHL owes the men it built into weapons? Tell me below. If this story moved you, a super thanks goes a long way, and please subscribe. The next one is a story most people only think they know.